it because we're flying off into a new point of view.
I
know. How amazing is that video?
That's great, right? Well,
I love it.
It's like,
it's fun. So, hi everybody, welcome to this week's Possibility Posse Live. I'm here joined with two fabulous, wonderful, sexy beasts, Annie and Jarryd, to talk about your point of view creating your reality. And it's funny that I chose that intro today because I used to have the point of view that a mother of four, a business owner, a woman who didn't have enough money, I don't know, could never travel. And so I never created it because if you're going to be a good mom, you better be home for like everything, right? And so I had the point of view that that was what my life was going to be, and there was no changing it. So that has changed because my point of view changed, really. So what do you guys know about point of view, and how do you want to play with it today?
Amazing. Well, something just pinged for me right there, like watching that intro video and then hearing what you just said now about travel. And one of the first like conscious tools I started playing with was when I was 14, I think it was, and I just heard of The Secret, right? And all of this stuff. And I was like, okay, cool. Like, I want to travel. And it was at age 14, I was like, okay, well, they said like, let's create a goal or whatever, like just try create a new reality with that. And I said in my little brain, I was like, okay, cool. What if I could go overseas every year? And I'm not going to tell anyone. And put it out there. And it's literally till now, I'm 29, I've gone overseas every single year. And it just completely like consolidated, is that the word? Like my reality. I was like, oh wow, there's energy out there. And so it just ties into this moment here going, that point of view shifted my reality. So that's quite cool.
Absolutely. And Miss Annie, you had, thanks for that, Jarryd, because that is, it's like what you put out there is what you get back. And how we choose to see things, hi Shelby, hi Deborah.
Hi Shelby.
But how we view anything, any situation. If you go into demise and it's impossible, that is exactly what you will prove to yourself, because points of view are actually something that you dynamically wake up every day asking to prove to yourself, even if it's not cognitive. So if something's possible, you're going after it. If something's not possible, you're not going to look at it. And that's just like across the board with how we create our lives. And so if you were waking up every day with possibility and how can I create this? What else is possible here that I haven't been able to perceive yet? You know, who can I speak to that will give me more information? And you're looking at that constantly, then you're bringing it into your life and you're actualizing it in a totally different way, just like travel. So Annie, you were the one that actually, I think, birthed the idea for this live, because you messaged me after a conversation we had with Jarryd on something where you were like, oh my God, I get it in a totally new way now. And so do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So like at your last foundation, which was fabulous. It was so good. There was this big moment of intensity where you were like, your point of view creates your reality. And I just want you to freaking sit with that. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, I'm going to sit with that, you know? And like, so I actually just made a demand that I sit with point of view creates your reality. And I am telling you, every freaking podcast or class or clip that I have clicked on has been, we're going to talk about choice and creating your reality. And it's all interesting point of view. Like literally everything I've ever clicked on since that moment has been like, oh yeah, we're going to talk about possibilities and creating your life, like from a point of view. And so like what started to show up for me was during that foundation, my apartment got broken into. Really cool, right? And I had this moment of like, okay, like we've got some options here, right? Like I can go into the freak out and the trauma and drama, and this can own me, and like, you know, all of that stuff, right? Like, and I had people in my world like pulling me towards like, yeah, like freak out, like go into this big hole and like then you have to get out of it and like conquer it and like overcome. And I was like, but this is what I've been asking for. I've been asking for a way out so that I can go like create my life. And I do this really fun thing where I have the point of view that like I need this thing to overcome, right? So that I can like launch into a new reality rather than just like doing the launch, right? I have to like create this thing that's like, oh, I had to move out of my apartment because it was broken into, right? Instead of just being like, no, I'm just going to move. Like, this isn't the reality. Like, this isn't creating for me, right? And so like, that was kind of the thing where I started to get like, oh, I have to create something here as a way to generate the movement rather than like just moving. And that's where like that space of possibility is, right? Is really in like just moving no matter what versus like creating the problem and then having the reality that comes after that. And that's just like totally different.
Yeah, but also if nothing were wrong and if your asked to move showed up differently than what you had decided it had to show up as, which is like, you know, perfect apartment shows up, perfect roommate shows up, all the money shows up. Oh, and then I'll move. If it shows up with someone breaking into your apartment, your point of view about that situation is what creates the next choice. And so if you look at that and you're like, oh, I've been asking to move. How fucking cool is that? My apartment got broken into, which is what you chose. You're like, okay, there's a possibility beyond this. Then nothing, you're at the effect of nothing because you can always change your point of view. Do we get that?
Yeah.
So you can always change your point of view. It's where we hold on to points of view that stick us. And it's our fixed points of view. It's not, see, in Access, if you've done any Access consciousness for our listeners at all, you know, people are like, is that an awareness or is that a point of view? It's not wrong to have a point of view. It's if you're unwilling to change your point of view to what creates greater, that limits you. You know, so you can have a point of view wherever you're standing at all, ever looking at anything is your point of view. Now, if you dig your heels in and want to demand that that's right or something else is wrong, now you're limiting possibilities from showing up. And so, Jarryd, you and I had talked about, and this is, I think, the spinoff of what Annie was saying was, we talked about you moving. And then we were saying like, oh, and I was saying like, hey, you realize that your point of view that if you're going to stay in London for this amount of time, if you make that solid, then possibilities only that fit London will get in. So do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yes. I mean, and I just want to talk, like, even just the moment before that was when we get told to like follow the energy, right? And it's so, and it sometimes can be scary, but it requires action. Okay. So I was living in Cape Town and I just had this urge that I needed to move to Johannesburg, so another city in South Africa. And as soon as, and I had nowhere to stay, I was going to just hang out with some friends for a bit, no job, I packed my car and I did my road trip. That was the plan. So I did it. And literally that week, I met you, Sarah, and I did your money for business class. And my whole reality started to shift. And then from that, it just steamrolled down to foundation, meeting Annie, meeting you both, and just going on this epic journey. And I just kept going, wow, am I on a roller coaster? Because shit is falling into place. And for the first time, I'm stepping out of control, which is really hard. But I'm just going to keep following it. And then Epic Foundation changed my life. And then it's like, okay, do Sarah's foundation and go into like 20th gear in your car. Hair blowing back, doing donuts, turning to tires. I like finish foundation. I'm like, what the fuck is happening? Like my whole reality is on fast forward. And I don't know if it was during foundation or just after foundation, I chose to move to London. And I think it was during foundation, and it just started speed tracking. And then in foundation was that moment where you said, Like, what if London is just the stepping stone to greater possibilities around the world? And it just blew my mind, because for the first time this whole process, I still have no idea where I'm going to be staying in London. I have no idea what job I'm going to be doing. I am in the visa process, so I'm taking all the little breadcrumbs that you say, follow the breadcrumbs. So I'm following the breadcrumbs. Where's my awareness taking me today? Okay, cool. This choice, that's it. I'm doing
You said awareness, right? Okay, I heard something totally different.
Did you hear something else?
It's fine.
And yeah, so it's just been really amazing. So and I know that when I get to London, what else is possible? And I'm so grateful for these tools, and especially having an interesting point of view, because I didn't realize the polarity of how that was sticking my world. So like when I was that 14-year-old boy, it was like, ooh, what if I can go overseas once a year? How cool would that be? So my world has shown me, oh, I'm going overseas once a year. But what if it's like all the time? What if magic existed all the time? And what if like I get to London and I don't have to do the hard hustle jobs, right? What if I can step into really cool work and stay in a really nice place, and whatever that is, however it's going to show. But so often I would just go to the lower opportunity versus receiving what could the higher possibility of the outcome be.
Well, one of the things I wanted to add to this extrapolation from you and what you said was that, so if we put a target out there, what starts to happen is a couple things can happen. So we put a target and it's like, I want to travel once a year. And then you start having that show up and you're like, oh, well, because I could have that, like, what else can I have? So it's not like, but it's when we land on once a year, make it right and solid. And then we only look to travel once a year because this is already greater than what we should have had. And so when you and I were talking on something, I can't remember what it was, some call. Geez, I have no brain, but some call we did after show. I don't know.
Yes, one of the calls.
Okay, so we were looking at the fact that, like, if you've made London the arrival point, so look at this for all of you listening, like, what do you have in front of you that if you actually achieved it, it would mean you arrived, okay? So if Jarryd's going through all this to get to London, but then solidifies London, then any possibility that would further his life outside of London can't actually get in because London's now solid. And if he does the thing where like, well, I'll be in London for 5 years, I tell you that point of view will make it so that if in 5 minutes you land in London and the greatest opportunity that could ever come across your world would, in those 5 minutes, it will not show up because it won't get in for 5 years because you've made London solid for 5 years.
Boom.
And that's the thing for us to start to look at is like where if we're creating every day and we're choosing in 10-second increments and we're open to receiving and potting as many points of view as we can in a day that are limiting, then you can land in London. And I think I said to you, you could go out to a bar that night. And if you have the possibility of London isn't the final, it's not the end all, it's where I'm being led to right now. Somebody with an invitation to something even greater than London can actually come sit next to you at the bar. But if you have decided that London is the end all be all, and look at this, what is London for you guys who are watching? Okay. Then that person won't even go to the bar that night. They won't even be drawn to go follow the energy of what they would like to create in the world that involves you or invites you, because your point of view will create that as a reality that won't include them yet. And so that's where we start to look at like points of view, creating not just how you see things, but how they create the future, based on what you're willing to receive now or where you put the receiving, which is in the future, too far out for it to show up right now.
Yeah, that piece so of big. That piece of like what you can receive, right? Like your point of view, like you'll only allow for that like interesting point of view to the amount that you're willing to receive from it, right? So like if everything is like airy fairy and like out here, right? Like how much can you actually receive from interesting point of view, or like even the point of view creating your reality? Because you'll only create as much as you're willing to receive. So like that's That's nuts. That I like, yeah, you just watched my head explode.
I love it when you do this.
I know. I'm like, that's nuts. Like, it's so scary. I know.
And it's such a liberating space to be in when you allow yourself that interesting point of view, and that's why I was so grateful for Foundation and so grateful for the tools, and especially this tool, because every time it comes down to interesting point of view, I'm like, oh, fuck. Interesting point of view. Change it, shift it. Whereas everything before was so in those polarities, like finite, like, okay, cool, I have to have a plan. And it has to look like this. And I have to work at this thing to make this amount of money to be able to afford this much rent in London. And I'm like, And after Foundation, it was like you just erased that from my reality and was like, what's it going to take?
Yeah. Yeah. And be willing to choose. So what's it going to take? I think a lot of times people hear these tools and go, like, well, you have to, like, how are you going to know how to get there, where you're going to go if you don't have like a roadmap, literally a literal roadmap to like your friend's house, right? But like if you follow, the roadmap appears as you choose. And that's the thing that we're so conditioned to, making a 5-year plan, putting out in front of you, and then following, every time that I see that, I see like Candyland, like little boxes, climb a ladder, and then, hopefully you don't hit a slide that brings you back or whatever, right? And so it has to be measured out and mapped out. And the possibilities that you're aware of have not actualized into reality yet until you get right to that square that you're going to leap onto. And so what happens is we're like, well, this is how, but you're creating the future from the possibilities you're aware of now when you do that. You're not aware of those. Like meaning like the being that you are now can pull in, say, 89 possibilities today. But the being you are tomorrow might have 89 plus 3. And so if or 89 plus 89 more, whatever, right? So, but as you create and you move with the magic of the universe, having your ask be actualized. Are you okay?
I just realized that my choice for this not only shifted my reality, so having that open, but I just realized that my mom and my stepdad are also moving to the UK now. Like, it suddenly opened up the possibility for them to come with. I just was like, and that wasn't in their world. Like, and once wow, okay, cool. So what else is possible? Yeah, it's like, sure. That just kind of blew my brain. How we can create for it just helps everyone.
Yeah. And that's the invitation we be when we start choosing from possibility. People go, oh, that's available? Holy shit. Like I won like I have like an ask to move to Houston. And I would have never thought of it unless my 9-year-old said, hey mom, why don't we live close to Uncle Dane? We could live in Houston. And I was like, wow, we could if we wanted to, but it never would have dawned on me because I had made California right. Mm-hmm. Like, people don't move out of California. You know what I mean? Like, it was right. Like, you go to California, you don't leave it. But that's how I was raised, with this, like, California living is the place to be kind of thing. So I had solidified that as a point of view that I wouldn't look to go anywhere else. And so my 9-year-old asking a question opened up a possibility. And that's kind of what it looks like to not roadmap everything so solid, because, and I'm to go back to that thing of like, you're actualizing possibilities every day by the growth you're willing to choose, the expansion of your being you're willing to step into. And so if you look at this simply, like, who you're willing to talk to today is going to be different in 2 weeks, right? Or in a year, right? So like, who you would reach out to today about a job or whatever is going to be different later. And so if you just look at that, like, in its microcosm, not really tapping into all the possibilities of the universe, but in the microcosm of who you are today, look back 5 years ago. Like, would you be here doing this live 5 years ago? Right? Like, I wouldn't even have been here doing this live 5 years ago. You know what I mean? But you grow you choose, you get more awareness, you keep choosing from that awareness. And so it seems futile to put too much of a plan out in front of you other than, getting there, seeing what's possible, asking questions. But when you go into like the fixed plan, you just limit the possibilities from showing up because they can't get in. You won't see that, like, you won't, if you've decided you're going to be this when you grow up, then you will always see, okay, oh, wait, back up. I'm going to delete that one from the record and I'm going to go this way. Have you guys ever bought like a new car that you were like, oh my God, I haven't seen this before, blah, blah, blah. So for me, I bought an Alfa Romeo, a red one. I was like, there's none of those on the street. There's 100 Range Rovers. There's 100 BMWs. I never see my car in the street, right? So I get in my car. What's the fucking car I see every day? Because I can point it out anywhere because all of a sudden it's in my reality as a point of view of this car. Okay. So that's how it is with everything. Like if you've decided it's got to look a certain way, it will look that way to you all the time. And then, any Lamborghini that wants to be yours can't actually drive into your driveway because you've decided that the Alfa Romeo is the way to go. Like whatever. I don't know if that even made sense, but I committed to not caring if I make sense anymore. What?
And what I also love was our, am I echoing? No.
Here, let me mute you and then unmute you. It helps. 1 second. Doodle, magic. And try it again.
Yes. Showtime. Okay, so what I really loved was how Annie and I were going through that same parallel shifts in our reality, like during foundation and thereafter, which has also just been so cool. And to create on that journey.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, there's such I also love that. I think it's Leela in the comments said that she has an ask to move to another country, and she gave up her apartment, and she'll be on the journey by the end of August, which is when I'm on my journey. So like, there's again like it's showing up, right? Like so now that's in my reality and in Jarryd's reality and anyone else who desires to move, like, or have something change, it is so interesting how you see it all the time, like it's totally in your world. And that's just that the point of view creates your reality. Like when I realized that I had the power, I was taking my dogs for a walk, and I was like, if point of view creates your reality, then like I could be like a wealthy, like goddess, like superstar, like rich woman, right? And I was like, okay, cool. Like I'll have that as my reality. Every single person on the street was pointing at me, was stopping their car to look at me, and I was like, no, like as if I was like this really important, like wealthy, rich goddess woman. And I was like, okay, all right. Like I got like, it's like that, man. Like, it's literally like, as soon as I decide that I will have it in my world, like anything is possible. And I am literally on that roadmap of like, squares are appearing in front of me. I went from living the life where I thought I had all of the squares lined up like in front of me as my reality. And it's been like through using the tools of access consciousness and everything else that I've included in my life, where like I've literally run out of squares. I don't have any more squares. And so like it's been really cool to be in that space of like allowing for my point of view to show up, right? Like, or like for me to be the creator of my reality, right? And to be in that creation and not just kind of waiting for the creation to show up or like waiting for it to present itself, or like being in the right place at the right time. But I'm actually in action, which, is such a different space.
And not to be scared of that action. And when that reality shows up. I remember in the middle of foundation when I said to Sarah, I was like, it's happening. And now I'm freaking out. Like, the visa's working out. It's all happening. I've been dreaming of this for years. And what do I do with this now? What do I do with this energy? Because the energy I know is to accept rejection. It's not going to happen. To accept the fear, to you don't have a plan, you don't have money to do it. All of those stupid lists, right? And once we destroyed and uncreated that all, added interesting point of view to it and going, sure,
Yeah,
let's just go with this and sit in a comfortable energy.
Yes. I watch, like, we're so good at the climb, right? To get to the top of that mountain.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Like when you're dreaming about it, or you're like, I'm asking for it every day. You're like, I'm asking, and you're doing the climb of this reality. And it's so interesting. I do this myself all the time too, to get to the top of that, see the possibility more clearly in front of you, and then go, maybe I'll go back down the mountain and see if my mom wants to come, or and start like checking the ropes on your It's so funny, and we do it so much, and yet we look at people, and I'll use Gary and Dana as an example, who have created a reality that we all look to and go, I'll have that, but we're not willing to do the leaping they're willing to do. Yeah, we're not willing to have it show up where you crash and fucking burn and get the awareness you require to leap again. We're just not. Yeah. And so it's like looking at the willingness to be like, you know what, I'm fucking going to London. If I go there and I fall flat on my face, I'll know London wasn't what I was supposed to be doing, and I'll have more awareness of what I'd like to choose next. We don't do that. We just inherently don't do that. And so when you're starting to use these tools, and we should probably tell people the interesting point of view tool just in case they don't have it, which basically interesting point of view is something that you can run with yourself, or you can run on someone else's point of view. I ask that you be aware of if you're weaponizing it against you or someone else. But if something comes up and you're like, I can't do this. Okay, interesting point of view. I have that point of view. And you keep saying it over and over until it just becomes interesting. It's just an interesting point of view. It doesn't have to have a charge on it. So interesting point of view that I don't think that I can, make $1 million next year. Interesting point of view. Interesting point of view. I have that point of view. Interesting point of view. I have that point of view. Interesting point of view. I have that point of view. And you keep doing that. You can also do it when other people have a point of view that sticks to you, that you're like, what the fuck? I've been doing this a fucking lot. Ruth said, are you coming to London? Ruth,
yes, I am.
I'm so jealous that Ruth's going to be in proximity and you're going to be.
I know.
Ruth is amazing and you're amazing and it's going to be awesome. Okay. So if someone else has a point of view and they're like, that's not possible. I mean, we've all had that, right? We're like, you're dumb enough to share your hopes, aspirations to someone, and they're like, that can't happen, right? So you, instead of buying that and having it, you add it to your doubt jar, Susie's got some doubt, I'll add it to my doubt jar. Now the doubt jar gets thicker and wider. You go, interesting point of view, she has that point of view, interesting point of view, she has that point of view, interesting point of view, she has that point of view, and you let her keep her doubt, and you don't add it to your already doubt that you're working on, right? And you can also do interesting point of view, I have a point of view about them having this point of view. So if there's somebody that you want to create with, or this is just one example, and they're like, no, I would never do that, then you go, and you get really frustrated, or even everything with like all the points of view flying around about the coronavirus, and you like can't believe someone has that point of view about it. The interesting point of view that I have a point of view about their point of view. And so that's like a real quick synopsis for that tool that can totally change everything for you if you would like. That's why we invite you to have us on replay.
Right. But like it is that
an allowance. Oh, sorry, Annie, you go.
No, go for it. Go for it, Jarryd. I want you to.
No, it was just, I just love how interesting point of view really gets you out of the judgments and gets you into allowance all the time. And it's the one thing I'm really working on is not getting it right when I go to London is that interesting point of view that I always have to get it right and just go there and just be.
Yeah, baby. Annie, do you want to say what you're going to say, and then I'll address that?
Yeah, I mean, well, it's like, so I'm actually like in a 10 Keys book club right now. And so like I was reading a chapter on interesting point of view, and like that thought just went right out of my head. So obviously, but it's like, it's literally like, oh yeah, interesting point of view is not that I don't have a point of view. It's that it's interesting, right? I get to the space where it's no longer like what Jarryd was saying, in that right and wrong polarity. I'm no longer looking for the reason and the justification to take the leap off the cliff. I'm no longer looking for the tangible proof of my life as a reason to create my life. I just create. And then anything after that is just interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love that.
And you can take any point of view as an interesting point of view, even the ones that you've decided are the good and right ones too. So a lot of times we use this tool only for like the bad and wrong and right? Well, it's like, interesting point of view. I have the point of view that I can, fly. Like interesting point of view, like whatever. Like everything to take the good and the bad stick us most, so just a little tidbit of a reminder. I want to address Michelle before I have to leap to something else. But Michelle, when those things come up, so if you're looking, so girl, me and you, I totally get this, right? So you have all the proof of why leaping doesn't work. You have all the proof of how you've ended up in a certain place and it wasn't fun, and why you should just keep it safe now. And what I'll say is that, there's often a patterning that we create from based on a point of view that we have hidden from ourselves. Okay. So basically, how do I put this? You want to start looking at what you love about the crash and burn. So you'll probably tell anybody, myself included, I've done this. You hate it. It's fucking awful. I hate how many times I've leapt and end up like on the bottom of the barrel, but there's something that we get out of everything that we recreate, that if we start to unlock that and look from, again, a different point of view, not everything you hate about what happened, but what do you love about recreating it? So for me, I would say right now I'm aware of where I love using problems as fuel. So I have to create a problem as though I need something to overcome, so that at the end of the overcoming, I'm a champion. And so instead of just having a life full of ease, it's like, no, hold on a second. Let's throw in a few problems there so that I have a mountain to always climb. I have a thing to overcome to prove I'm powerful and potent. And because the ease is actually an uncomfortable thing. As more things show up with more ease, I'm like, oh, now that I'm willing to have some of that, I'm like, wow, why am I still choosing this? Okay, cool. What do I love about it? Who gets to encapsulate in my reality when I have a problem? Who can identify with me when I have a problem that I'm not willing to not have identify with me anymore? Who gets to swoop in and rescue me? That was a big thing for me for a long time. It's how I stayed connected to my older brother, Dane. I'd have a problem that he could fix, so I felt connected to him. And so you look at that. And so if you start to look at those things, you can break apart the polarity on both sides. So that's one thing. Yeah, so if my life sucks and people care about me and are nice to me, fucking rad. Okay, cool. And if your life doesn't suck, are those people going to be around? And are they people who actually desire you to be greater? That's a fucking mind fuck when you're like, oh, mom and dad actually want me poor so that they can always be in my life providing for me, right? Because they decided that you won't need them or desire them if you aren't poor. It's wild. So you're like, oh, that's not even my point of view. I actually would still enjoy seeing mom and dad every once in a while. I just want to see them for money. Like, okay, cool. And then you look at that. Okay. There was another part of this that I wanted to say. Hold on a second. Come back to me. Give it back to me. Point of view, not making it right. Ah, damn it. Yeah. The thought left the building.
Can I also add in there, Sarah?
Yeah.
That my whole reality this past 2 years is that I was just one particular person before Access. Like I only got aware of Access this year, right? But I was an actor. That was my thing. I haven't done my job for almost 18 months, like no income. And it was just going interesting point of view. And from that, I mean, I'm a pro couch surfer. That's what I've been doing. And I'm changing that reality. And as you can see behind me, this is my apartment because I've somehow created it to happen somehow. But we can do it. Like, we can shift our realities from nothing. We just, like Sarah said, have to find that other point of view and then shift it. And it's so much fun.
I found my thought. I wrote it on my hand so that I didn't forget. That's how like limited thoughts are in my world right now. So the cool thing is, so back to Michelle's question that I get contributes to all of us, myself included. Mm-hmm. Okay, is one question Gary asked in an abuse class years ago that just blew my whole world apart, and I think I've said it to you guys before, was, but did you die? Okay, but did you die? So every time you crashed and burned, will you look at the creation that you're still fucking here? You didn't die. So which means you're actually a fucking magical creator, because you had people in all the places that could rescue you, that could care about you, that could take care of you. So if you took all that energy that you used to put all these people in the places in your life so that when you crashed and burned, they were there, that's energy that you're using to co-create the crash and burn with. If you took that and go, wow, I've actually never gone hungry, or if I have, I've found food pretty quickly. I have people that I can go to. I have couches I can surf on. I literally want a picture of you like on a couch surfing. I'm just saying. Okay.
Yes.
I always somehow managed to have a roof over my head. Or what can you acknowledge about every crash and burn that's like, wow, I worked really hard to fuck some shit up and I still didn't die. Still didn't fuck that shit up hard enough to where, you know what I mean? Like, I'm desolate in the desert somewhere. Wow. Okay, cool. I'm a fucking creator. Now, if nothing's wrong and nothing's right, take the energy that you've been putting into all the fuck ups and the avoidance of creating your life. I'm so good at that too. I'm like, I avoided a number of things I should not have been avoiding, which is now creating very interesting things in my life. But I go, instead of sitting in Judgment Island about it, I go, okay, cool. Interesting choice, Sarah. All right, what would you like to use this energy on that you're putting on judging you or manufacturing the next perfect choice so you don't do this again? What awareness did I receive? And if I took all that energy along with the acknowledgement of me as a creator, what would I like to choose now? And then go. Go, baby, go, baby, go. And it seems simple because it is. It's literally like, okay, cool. What a fucking bad mess, right? All right, cool. Now what? You know?
Oh my God, yeah.
But here's the thing, you guys. We create like shit stew, okay, with our choices. Like, it's like, oh, that smells. That wasn't fun. I didn't really like that very much. No. But instead of like walking out of the room of where the shit stew is like steaming and making everything stinky, we're like, no. I'm going to stand and I'm going to identify every particle in the shit. I'm going to give it a label and a name so that I can identify it if it ever shows back up again. And, I might add some self-judgment, which, you know what, might as well just dive back into the shit so that I can judge myself for what I chose. And so then we stand. So this is a very large pot, by the way, of shit stew. So then we climb up to instead of leaping off the mountain of the next choice and possibility, we are scratching at the sides of the pot of shit stew so that we can dive back in. This is me diving. So we can judge ourselves for creating it in the first place. Okay? Because if we get in there and we let it get all over us and it's like in all of our orifices and it's up in us and and we smell again and we are just laden with judgment of the choice and now we are walking shit, then we know that we'll never create it again because we know what it is that we did. But here's the thing. The minute you get out and get to the next choice, that shit stew is off you. You're moving. And if you create more shit stew, it's because you love something about shit stew. That's all it is. Yeah. That's it. Okay. My favorite recipe. Oh
my God.
But look at that for yourself. Like, where are you still sitting in the living room of the shit, trying to figure out what's in the shit instead of just walking out the door to create something totally different, even if it's another pile of shit. At least get interesting piles of shit, not the same shit. That's my point of view. If you love creating shit, like create different kinds of shit, not the same shit.
Oh my gosh. I just did that this morning. Like I was in my head trying to do consciousness like math. Because like that's the shit that I like to create for myself is like I like instead of allowing things to show up, I had trip like and just literally somersault in my brain for fun. And then I was like, you know what? I'm really tired of doing this. Like I was literally like, wait a minute, like, do we have to do this every time? Like every time this one thing shows up in my life, it's literally like somersaults and backflips all day in my brain. And I was like,
can I offer you something? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I just itched like I had like a flea or something. Okay. Sorry. That's what my mind does. I'm sorry. Okay. So if you're a head tripper, here's something that helped me with head tripping. So it's like I would try to head trip into possibility. So it's like, well, instead of trying to figure it out, a little trick I started to play on myself was saying these words in front of said head trip. So it would be like, I wonder if it'll show up this way. I wonder if it'll show up that way. I wonder if. And so then there's a wonderment to it that then changes your head trip into wonder. Yeah. And then you have a different energy of exploring possibilities than trying to get the linearity math equation right. And it's a little Sarah trick that helped me with my head tripping. Not to say I don't head trip. I fucking do still, abso-fucking-lutely. But when I add these words, like I wonder what's going to happen. Yeah. You know, you can even do the influx. The voice goes like this. I wonder what's going to happen. Like oh my God. I wonder what's going to happen.
Oh my God. That's so good.
Wow. I wonder how that's going to show up. But if you go into the wonderment and you just kind of trick because our verbiage and our words carry an energy, right? Yeah. And so if you can add the wonderment to your head tripping, it seems for me anyways, and try it out for you guys. If you start to, it just gives space between the solidity of the molecules that your brain is taught to create with. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And then you're like, oh, I'm in wonderment. And then you can go like, I wonder if pigs will fly to pick me up and take me on this trip. I wonder if you add fucking insanity to your already insane thoughts and it becomes more of an exploration and more play and more fun. And then you don't have to be so wrong about head tripping.
Yeah. Yeah, that definitely. And your whole consciousness is not math thing hit me in my brain today where I was like, oh, like for whatever reason, I'm so cute where I'm like, oh, that's what she meant when she said consciousness isn't math. You know, where it's just like, oh yeah, I'm doing the whole like A plus B plus C plus like, you know, again, where like the squares that are a possibility that have already been created, I take them all and like add them all up, right? And try to figure out what squares are going to be created from that rather than just, again, like creating from the point of view. And like really, wow, like I just visualize like standing on top of the mountain and really creating from there in that leap, right? But there's like that, we talked about that mid-air moment in the foundation. Yeah. Where like, that's the thing is like, but if I'm in mid-air, then there's nothing to grab onto. And then like, you know, all of the stuff where it's like, how do I know I'm real? Or like, how do I make this, how do I solidify the possibility? Right.
The interesting thing that we can all look back over our lives is if you don't choose, the universe ends up kicking your ass off that cliff. Anyways.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, so you end up in fucking midair anyways. You might as well have a choice, you know, a tool available to choose the next thing, you know, because the shit will crash down. And that's like things showing up not how you planned because your cute little mind couldn't have chosen this way. But sometimes the universe turns up the speed on itself. So it's like you get fired from a job, your boyfriend leaves you, your girlfriend leaves you, or like whatever, right? And you're like, what the fuck? Like I was just about to leap to possibility. Now you've decided from your point of view that that's taking you back down the mountain. But if you go, oh, fuck, the universe just kicked my ass off the cliff to go to something different, that changes the energy of the situation. Like, and all the, like, when people's lives start to, like, air quotes on fall apart, right? After a foundation, it's very interesting to look at. It's often all of the things that they were desperately holding on to that were going to limit them from going forward.
Right.
And they're like, oh my God, no, solidify it all back. Fix it with the lover, fix it with the landlord, fix it with the job, get everything back into place so they can have the same foundation. Or the universe is like, all right, I see you choosing, and they flick you off, the universe flicks you off the side of the cliff, and you're like, you know? So you can have that happen, or you can just be constantly in motion in the free fall of living by choosing the adventure of living by continually choosing, you know? And so, so your comment back to the thing that we said in foundation is like the only place, like consciousness and math, like math is the only place where there's a right answer. It's not in consciousness. There's no right and wrong, good and bad. It's just constantly choosing, gaining the awareness of whatever that choice created, and then choosing whatever's next from the awareness you just received. And, you know, and trying to have fun doing it.
And one last thing I just wanted to add in there was one of the biggest shifts in my point of views, and shifting the possibility of my reality, was realizing that money doesn't have to show up as money, because I had such a fixed point of view that money what else in my month or weeks was I making money that wasn't money. And I suddenly was like, oh my gosh, I got this experience, or I got to take this class, or I got to live in this house, or go here, and that's money, and how much does that add up to? And I was like, whoa, I've really started to shift my financial reality once I shifted that point of view about, I'm only earning money because it's showing up as money or whatever.
Yeah, as coin and paper. And money is energy and receiving. And we get that one changes so fucking much, even the paper and the coin. So I've got to leap because I'm actually a little bit late to something right now. I will say really quick, Michelle, I'm looking at your comment here and I'm just reading in between the lines. Staying at dad's while I deal with his estate. And now I need to find a place to live. Okay, so energetically, and I'm not talking to you and I hope I'm not projecting on you, look at that and go, wow, did dad pass right now so that I had a place to stay? Did dad choose something that contributed to me? I'm guessing dad passed because you're saying dealing with his estate. Okay, so is there something you can receive in that estate that's going to actually launch you to the next choice? Like, what gift is there that you haven't acknowledged because you're looking at it as a problem or something you have to do, that maybe if you go, wow, what do I get to do here? What do I get to receive here? That will just change that one little point of view, that one little prick in your side that goes, okay, cool, this is the journey I'm on right now. How much fun can I have? What is here for me to receive? And what gift is in this that I haven't acknowledged? That changes it. Melody, hi. Okay, so I also wanted to tell you guys, those of you that are on and those that will watch later, we just opened a program because many of you asked. It's called Possibility Playground. It's $44 a month. You get a guest Zoom. So this Thursday, we're starting off with Kara Wright. She has a capacity to create with this bitch energy that I've been watching for years. I just sit on the side and just eat popcorn watching her just be the bitch that's inspired. And so she's willing to come chat with us and facilitate us around that. You get a Being You class with me once a month along with that. We have a rapid fire clearing Zoom. You get on, I run clearings from the latest classes, and then you'll get that as a replay to loop. And I'm also doing, we have a WhatsApp thread and a free drawing, or a drawing for a free session, 30-minute session with me once a month from those that are in the group. That starts on Thursday, but if you sign up now, you get the first month for free, and then the auto payment will come out next month. So anybody else that you've been looking at that might enjoy this, or to come try it out for a month, and they can cancel if they didn't have a fucking fantabulous time, which they fucking will. You can join that. It's on my website. If you guys would like to, there's a link there. It says groups. So I don't know what that is, but it's Possibility Playground. It's on my website, and you're all invited to come play. I would love to play with you more, and we'll keep doing these lives every Tuesday as long as I'm alive. Just kidding. I'm always alive. Last week I just had a back problem. Couldn't breathe. But here we are. So you're invited, and I'm thankful and grateful for both of you. Thank you so much for all you contribute and all you
Thank
see.
you so much.
Yay, this was so amazing. Thank you.
Yay! Oh my
Don't
gosh,
leave
what
just
else is
yet.
possible?
We're going to do it outgoing. 1 second. Okay, the truth is, I wanted to read what was popping because I forgot. If you join before August 14th, you also get 20% off of my Being You in Relationship class that I'm doing on the 14th. So you get into that and you get the discount code. And there was something else on there. There was something else that I forgot about. Extras, fun extras, something else that was on that list. So come play. We have a ton of fun, and super, super grateful. Thank you guys for being here. And even if you're like, I could never afford an extra $44 a month, fucking sign up. Enjoy the free month. It's on me. I'd love to have you there, and then see what's possible for next month. That's my wedgie up your ass. Right, love you guys.
Love you.
Wow.
Bye.
How do I do this? Bye, baby.